Hello, everybody. This is Laura Peterson. I'm your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407 566 2555. That's 407 566 2555. So, lots of great stuff to go over today, starting with the stats as always. And there were 435 single family homes that sold last week, and that's down from 480 the week before. But the week before was definitely the end of the month, so it's always a little bit higher. The median price of single family homes went to 439,999, which is down 0.5%, which is just within that weekly little variability that we have. So we're staying very consistent on that. And the inventory increased by 110. And so that's sitting at 9,484 homes. So that ends up being 5.03 months of inventory, which is considered a normal market. Now, when you're looking under 250, there are 3.94 months, 3.87 between 250 and 300. Between 300 and 400, there's 3.65, 5.5 between 400 and 500, 6.5 between 500 and a million, and over a million is at 5.48. Now, so when you're looking at that, I always talk about real estate being extremely local. So this is between the price points. We actually look at the neighborhoods and what's going there, down there, and everything as well, because it really makes a big difference. Now, when you're looking at, there were 36 under 250 that sold, 32 between 250 and 300, 119 between 300 and 400, 82 between 400 and 500, 125 between 500 and a million, and 41 over a million. So that's kind of how everything shakes down. The list to ask price ratio was at 96.57 overall, and pretty much straight across the board, except for over a million, was at 94.19. The average days to contract is 66 is what it is, and the average bedrooms is a 4-bedroom, 2-bath home, 2,140 square feet. So kind of pretty consistent with what's been going on here. So no big surprise there. When you're looking at the condos, townhomes, and villas, there were 124, so more than the week before, which was 122, so a whopping 2 more. The median price increased to 273, which is up 3%, and the inventory increased by only 6, which is 4,480, which in my opinion is really good, because the condos are a little bit different story than the single family homes. And that's where maybe you'll see the difference of why everything is really local. So of those 124, there were 58 of them that were under 250, 18 between 250 and 300, 27 between 300 and 400, 13 between 400 and 500, 8 between 500 and a million, and none of them over a million sold. But there's only 14 on the market, so not a whole lot that are on the market. Now, when you're looking at here on how many months of inventory there is, it's 8.34. So it's definitely a buyer's market. And under 250, there's 7 months. It goes to 8.45 between 250 and 300. 9.87 between 300 and 400, 10.31 between 400 and 500, 500 and a million, it's 9.17, and the average days on the market for them is 106, and the square footage is 1360, being a 2.2. So they're a little bit less than the single family homes, but the thing that you have to remember is that there are also condo fees and everything like that. I do have a condo on the market, and I was talking to the owner earlier this week, and in their particular development, there are 2 years of inventory in their particular type of unit. So that's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath unit in that particular development, based on the number that have sold. And what is going on in there is that their condo fees went up significantly. And so a lot of people put the property on the market. And so that's very obvious to anyone who's buying it what the condo fee is. And as I was explaining to them, if someone's coming in there to get a loan, they have to include that condo fee as part of what their monthly expenses are. And so even though the price point might be that it's not that expensive, when you add on that condo fee, it almost adds 100,000 or more that you could go out there and buy a house. And so that's what some people are doing. But people love the condo living and everything. I mean, I've done it myself. I did it for a lot of years in Chicago, and I just loved it. It was great. You didn't have to worry about anything. You didn't have to do anything in regards to, maintaining the outside for sure. And most of everything, like the roof and all of those kinds of things, were covered. So it wasn't anything that you had to consider or think about or anything like that. Obviously, you had to take care of all of the things that were inside your unit. But, I mean, you didn't have to worry about painting the outside or anything like that. So it was extremely nice in doing that. And I think that, it just it's a specific type of person. Sometimes it's the people that are first starting that like to do that. Sometimes it's people that are, downsizing, that's where they want to go and that kind of thing too. But you can see just on the difference of the inventory between single family homes and condos and all of that. Now, surprising enough, the list to ask price ratio is pretty similar, both of them at 96.55, but or 96.55 for the condos, and the houses was a little bit different, but it was still a 96. So basically, when you're looking at that, it's extremely, extremely local in figuring out, what you want to do and how to go through it with what's going on in the market. And so, when I'm looking at the stats, I'm always looking for trends to see where we're at. And everybody keeps saying, well, not everybody, but a lot of people tell me, they're like, oh, when's the market going to go down? And honestly, from what I can see, it is not heading in that direction. We have been somewhere between 420 as a single family home and 470. We kind of vary between there, but closer probably 430 to 460 on a weekly basis. And we stay pretty consistent at that week in and week out. And when you're looking at the monthly stats, it is showing that our market does increase slightly. It's not going backwards like it's gone up like year over year. Usually it's like gone up like, 2 or 3% or year over year, or going up 0.5% or something. So it's still holding very steady and not going anywhere. And with the way people feel about the economy and the way things are going, I don't anticipate that anything is going to change that. Now, if the interest rates do happen to go down, which I know a lot of people would like to see that happen, then what would happen is that a lot more people would get into the market, houses would go quicker, and I do believe that that might cause an increase in the prices. So right now, they're holding very steady. And I was talking to somebody the other day, and we were talking about a rent versus own calculator. And it's very interesting. I mean, I've got that I can do that for anybody that's interested and run those numbers for you so that you can look at it. But basically, a lot of people are thinking, well, I can just continue to rent and I'm going to be in a similar situation as someone who owns. And statistics don't bear that out, basically. And when you look at the real cost of what it is, when you consider, that you've got your taxes, appreciation over the years, all of those things that come into play, that home ownership by far has been one of the biggest wealth builders. It's an American dream. And so that's what we're here for, is to help you achieve that. So in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we will see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Laura Peterson, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407 566 2555. That's 407 566 2555. So, one of the things that I was reading about this week was talking about how strong credit opens doors. And this might actually help people understand why the prices aren't decreasing like they did in 2000. Actually, I think they held steady in 2005 and in later 2005 and then started falling in 2006. But everybody officially says 2008 was when it all happened and everything, the crisis. And basically, I got my license in 2005, so hard to believe, but it's been 20 years now that I've been a realtor. And I got my license in the summer, July of 2005. And so just a few weeks ago, it was my 20th anniversary. And basically, what happened was in the fall of 2005 is that the prices had been going up to the tune of about 5% a month, month after month after month after I had been in the business. And some of the other people that I was working with, they said, oh, they're never going to come down. And I said, well, I think 5% a month is just way too much for them to continue to go like this. And sure enough, in the fall, what happened probably about November is that the market just kind of stalled. It just kind of stopped. And basically, it just kind of held on, and there were very little sales that were going on, and the inventory was starting to grow and everything and grow exponentially. And as I talked about in the last segment, that we're in what we consider a normal market now, which is somewhere between 4 and 6 months, and we're at about 5. So we're at probably that place where it's at that's actually really good for buyers and really good for sellers. But in 2006, 7, and 8, the inventory just continued to grow. And it got up to, because I looked at the 20-year history not that long ago, it got up to 23 months of inventory. That's where we were at, 23 months. So at that point, obviously, everything was falling and everything was, going down, down, down as quick as you could. And I remember talking to a seller early in 2006, and she had bought this property and in this condo, and she had bought it for 700,000. And I had told her, I said, do you need to sell this, or do you want to sell this, or where are you at? And she actually lived in Miami, and so she had a place that was here in the Orlando area. She was renting it out, but she really didn't want to do that, so she definitely wanted to sell. So I told her, I said, in my opinion, based on the inventory increasing and everything and just stalling, I think that you need to lead the market with the pricing and just go ahead and cut your losses now. Otherwise, I think it's going to be a mess. And so I told her that, and she did listen to me. And so she took a $50,000 loss, sold it for $650,000. But do you know that those condos went down to $100,000? So she could have lost a lot more. And so she did cut her losses at 50, but didn't lose, 600,000 or short sale it or go through a foreclosure or something like that. And I think that she did pay cash for it, so she would have just lost it. And those places are back now in like the 400 or 500, so probably at the 700 they were way too much to begin with. But they've kind of gone through as low as they could go, and then they started to come back, which is what always happens. So in my opinion, the pendulum always goes too far one way and then it goes too far the other way. But where we've been and what I've seen in Central Florida right now is that we're just kind of holding steady. But my whole point in saying all this is that I ran into something that said that strong credit opens doors, and it absolutely does. And it was comparing 2005 and 2008. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of background in regards to what was going on back there and why the prices really fell down. But the main thing that happened is that almost anybody could get a loan. Like I remember that there were some builders out there and some investors that went in and they bought 10 houses in a row from a builder, and they didn't show any financial statements. They didn't show anything. They were just going to go in there and buy them. So they had contracts on all of them. And what they were planning on is that when those properties got built is that they were going to be worth more than what they paid for them when they went under contract. Well, that didn't happen to be the case. So the builders went under, the people buying them, their credit was not good for a long period of time. They probably didn't close on them, but they did lose whatever their deposits were. So, at that point in time, what this article was reminding me of is it said in 2005 that there were a lot of below prime rate loans. And I don't know if you were around then or if you remember that, but basically people were getting loans and they were, like 3-year adjustable loans. And after 3 years, the rate was going to change and it was going to take that negative equity and add on to what you have. And so people's payments went for, say, they were paying, $1,500 a month or $2,000 a month, and it went to like $3,000 overnight. And they were going, I can't afford this. I don't know what to do. And so as a result of that, the bad planning on the loans and how they were all structured and everything like that caused a lot of the problems. And that's why they say it was the housing crisis basically that happened. But there were a lot of extenuating circumstances that came into play, of which a lot of them were those subprime loans that existed out there. They were very risky. I remember talking to a lender after it was kind of over, and they said that, back in the day that the loan files for every person was maybe 10 sheets of paper, and that's it. There was nothing verified. There was nothing, anything. You just said what you made, and they said, okay, and here's your loan, and there you go. And now it went the exact opposite, that it went to like a whole ream of 500 sheets of paper of proving that you were credit worthy and that you could do it. And it's kind of relaxed a little bit, especially if you're a W-2 employee, that they can see more what's going on in regards to having your bank statements and looking at your pay stubs and that kind of thing. So it's not as daunting as it was when at the end of the crisis, when everything was just kind of new and they were making things happen. But basically there is a lot more regulation and everything that came into effect as a result of that. And what happens if you do have a strong credit score today is that it opens up the doors. It gives you lower rates on loans. And it really matters in regards to giving you more options. There might be more loans that you can qualify for that you weren't necessarily aware of. And so those exist and everything. There are fewer riskier loans that are out there. So you as the consumer know that you're going to be able to afford it. I was talking in the first segment that it used to be that that with the condos, for example, they would want to know what your loan and your taxes were and your insurance, and that was principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. Those were the 4 things that they considered when they were looking at their ratios. But now they added the homeowners association. They've added the condo fees into that because it is a fee that you're going to have to pay with the housing. But back in 2008, 2005, none of that stuff was going on, and that all contributed. So what they did is they just made things so they were wiser, so that people could actually do what they wanted to do. So that's why people think, oh my gosh, the market is just going to fall apart again. But we do not have the same dynamics today as there were in 2005, 6, 7, and 8. 9 and 10, 10 is where it hit the bottom. They say it's April of 2010. I remember in June of 2010 that there was a house that was owned by a bank. It was on the market for $50,000. The people had bought it for 300,000. They had never lived in it because they were from the UK, and it finally got taken back and put on the market in 2010, and I was going, "Oh my gosh, a new house for 50,000? No way." And it went like hotcakes, obviously. And from that point on is where I saw the market shift and start to go up again. So basically, where we're at today, in my opinion, is that we're very stable, and it's proved to be true ever since the interest rates went up. We've kind of stalled in regards to the price going up or anything. I mean, it's gone up minimally, but it hasn't gone down. And so I think that kind of gives us an indication in regards to what's going on and everything in the market, but more to come after the break. In order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we will see you after the break. Bye-bye. Welcome back, everybody. This is Laura Peterson, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So I did find another thing that came out this week that was the economists in what they think is going to happen. So kind of continuing on from the last segment in regards to what's going on out there with the loans and our property price is going to go down and everything. And basically the things that we always need to look at is affordability. So can the average person out there making whatever the average wage is for this particular area, are they able to afford a house, and what kind of a house can they afford? Because like I mentioned in the last segment, there are ratios that need to be met that are regulated, not regulated, but they're guidelines that are put together by the government. So basically, they want to make sure that whatever you're making, that not more than 50% of what you're making goes pretty much to all of your bills. It's just a good rule of thumb. Different loans have different amounts and everything. And then they've got housing that's a little bit less than that. So if you've got a car payment, if you've got a credit card, if you've got student loans, if all of that stuff added together, whatever your monthly payments are, cannot go really over 50%. They want to make sure that you've got a little bit of a cushion there, that you, aren't house poor, is basically what it comes down to. So that's kind of where the affordability comes in looking in regards to what's going on. The next thing that we all look at is the trends, what's happening out there. And like I said, our market has been very consistent. And you might say, well, the inventories, somebody's going to say in the news, well, the inventory is probably 8 times more than what it was after the pandemic in 2021, before the interest rates went up. Because the market, we had a half a month's inventory, which that was a complete buyer's market. It was crazy. Buyers were not getting the house that they wanted at all. They were getting, if a house came on the market, they were buying it blind. They were like, I don't want an inspection. I'm paying cash. I found a way to do that. And that's it. And no seller concessions. It was a total seller's market. So we were at a half a month's inventory. So a normal market is between 4 and 6. So basically right now with this week, with the number of homes that sold, we're at 5. So we're at a total balanced market. Now for houses, for condos, a little bit, we're in the getting to the buyer side. So basically, that's with the inventory going up, it's not been a bad thing. Now we have weeks where the inventory goes up and the inventory goes down. So it was every week, hey, it's going up by 100. Now it's going up by another 100. A couple weeks ago, it went down by 100. And then another week or so ago, it went down by 50. So we've got the ups and downs going on. So the inventory is kind of leveling off as well. So that's a good thing. So what you've got to look at the trends. So first of all, it's affordability. Next thing is looking at the trends in regards to what's going on. And then what we're looking for is we're looking at the changes in price and what's going on in the industry and everything out there. But the economists, they came out with their predictions and everything, and I really don't see I don't see too much wrong with what they're saying here. What they're saying is that they think that the number of homes that are going to sell is going to go up 3% in the next year. So they're saying, like, right now we had 400 and change of some homes that sold last week. And so they're saying that that's going to go up 3% for 2025. The number of homes that are selling week in and week out. That's what they're talking about there. But the increase in price, this I found very interesting. They thought that it would have a 1% increase in 2025. So pretty consistent, like a 1% increase is not a huge increase, but if you're looking at our average price of 440, that's 44,000 that it's going to increase. No, it's 4,000 that it's going to increase over the year. So not a big increase. So nothing that you go, gosh, I really have to get on the stick and get things going. But the interesting thing is that they thought that the prices will start increasing in 2026, and they think that they'll increase by 4%. So I found that interesting, and the thing that is tied to that is that their prediction is that the interest rate now will stay pretty close to 6.7 for the remainder of 2025. So that's just keeping everything, affordability, all of that kind of going the way that it is. But they expect the interest rate to go down to 6% in 2026. So if the interest rate goes down to 6%, then that's where you're going to get your 4% increase. And I would agree 100% with that. So what does that mean for you as a buyer? What I talked a little bit about the rent versus own in earlier in the show, and one of the things that it really is that you've got to look at is that where do you want to be a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and it might be worth it for you to pay an extra $100 now, so that 2 years from now you're paying based on what's going on now, you're going to be paying a lot less of your income because, first of all, you can refinance. If the interest rates go from 6.7 to 6 and you refinance, then that's going to save possibly that $100 increase that you've got right now, right there. And then if the property values go up 4%, then you're definitely in the right place. And if the rents go up, then you're definitely in the wrong place. So basically, in the wrong place if you're still renting, that is. So basically, it comes down to, I think, looking at your situation. And we've got all the calculators and everything for you to look at your different scenarios to see, what would be your best situation for now and for the future, and really planning. And that's what I think is really good, is that you've got the ability to kind of look in the future and see what's going on. And I really believe that the interest rates will adjust a little bit. Everybody's talking about that with the economy, the way that it's going and everything else of what's happening. People expect that the interest rates will start to fall eventually. It might take another year, but when they do, I do believe that the housing market will take off again. We were selling double the number of houses in 2021 as we are today. We're still selling houses, 400 and some a week. So that's not a low number. There's plenty of properties that are being moved, but basically it comes down to really being in that position where you're going to be where you want to be and where you want your family to be when the time is right. So if it were me, I would really be looking hard for 2025 when the market is kind of staying very consistent, instead of waiting for 2026 when the market heats up. There's less choices. You've got to be a lot more aggressive, especially if you're a first-time buyer and you need those closing costs and that kind of thing. Your best bet is going to be to get the property now and to be able to move into it and do what you want to do with it, down the future. And if you're a first-time buyer and you get into a house now, it's going to be probably the best thing for you to be able to have what you want, have your cake kind of and eat it too. So you've you've got everything that's going on. And you might say, well, there's nothing good out there or anything like that. And I this might not be the area for you, but I do know of a house that just came on the market a couple of days ago. It is in Altamont Springs. It's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house, ranch, no HOA, which everybody loves that. And it does have a septic tank, but it's been certified and pumped out and all of that kind of good stuff. So you don't have a sewer bill either. And basically, the bottom line is that it is on the market in that 350 neighbor, 350,000. So maybe that's affordable, for you and your family more than the 430 is. That's about 100,000 underneath it. But everything's been, completely repainted, gone through with a fine tooth comb to make sure that it's ready for that new owner. So you just want to look at the whole situation and know that there are properties out there that might be the best thing for you. You just have to pick up the phone, give us a call, and we'll help you out on that. So in order to get in touch with us, you can call 407-566-2555, or you can text us at that number, 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we'll see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Laura Peterson, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So one of the good things for Florida that just came out, that we are ranked number 1 in the U.S. for economy. We're ranked number 3 overall in CNBC's 2025 Top States for Business, earning high marks for its workforce and other key strengths. So the number of overall of everything is North Carolina is the first one. Number 2 is Texas. 3 is Florida. 4 is Virginia. 5 is Ohio. 6 is Michigan. 7 is Georgia. 8 is Tennessee, 9 is Indiana, and 10 is Minnesota. So these are the things that are being evaluated. So it was based on the number. Okay, a recent listing, America's Top State for Business, shows Florida as having the number 1 economy in the U.S. We are also getting high marks for our workforce. We ranked lower business friendliness, that's number 23. Cost of doing business is number 22. And quality of life is number 22. I don't know where they got that one from. But so that brought us all to 3rd in the nation. And so basically, that's kind of basically what's going on. So it was 135 metrics and 10 broad categories of competitiveness, and they added metrics to gauge the state's risks from a trade war and from shrinking federal budget. But we still came in 3, and we came in number 1 for the economy, so I thought that was pretty cool. But another thing that comes to housing and what's going on out there in the U.S., the international purchases of houses is up for the first time since 2017. So that's pretty awesome as well. There were 78,100 total properties that were bought in the U.S. from foreign people, and that was up 33.2% from last year. So a huge increase. Florida is number 1 where people purchase, and that's 21% of those 78,000 were purchased in Florida. Next is California with 15, Texas was 10, New York was 7, and Arizona was 5, were the top states. Now, where are these people coming from, you might ask? So 15% came from China, which was 11,700 properties. Next is Canada, which was 14%, which is 10,900 properties. 17%, I'm sorry. Mexico was 8% which was 6,200 properties. India was 6%, 4,700, and then the UK was last on our list at 3,100. So, when we're looking at it, obviously in our area, we do get Canadians and UK people that come here primarily, that are purchasing. I mean, I do know of some Mexicans and Indian people that have come that have purchased properties here in Central Florida as well. So, good news on the horizon for that. And it's everybody's dream that somebody's going to come from some foreign country and they're just going to plop down more cash than what your house is worth. And unfortunately, that doesn't happen. Usually, they are very educated in regards to what they want to get, what they're looking for, what the return on investment is, and they do their homework. But the opportunity is out there, and we are still out there in the hunt and on top of the game and everything for all of that. So, that's all I've got for today. In order to get in touch with us, all you have to do is call or text 407 566 2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we will see you next week. Have a great one, everybody. Bye bye.